everyone, and welcome to the Metagame Book Club, and we're talking about blockchain. Now, this week is going to be a little different. We're going to have a really short version of this, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about a game that Jane McGonigal made to introduce the game to the South by Southwest conference. And then we're going to have a little bit of commentary, and then we're going to ask you to go play the game on your own. And then, at the top of the hour, we will be back with another hangout because of the sudden popularity of Pokemon Go. We're bringing the ISTE Games and Sims Network people back to talk about Pokemon Go. So, let's get started. We'll introduce our guests. We have Chris. And then we also have Cynthia Calgone, and she is currently that avatar that's right there at the bottom. She is going to be live streaming from a doctoral symposium that she is doing, and we'll go ahead and we'll grab her probably more towards the end, and she'll unmute her mic and she'll get on there. So, to go ahead and get started, we're going to pull up some slides. And we should be able to get it started in just a second. So, if you go ahead and refresh those, we should get those. Okay, hold on just a second, because it does not look like you'll be getting them from there. So, let me see what I can do. Ah, we now have it. Wonderful. Okay, so this is a blockchain in education. This is our second week in July. This is the Metagame Book Club, and the Metagame Book Club is from the ISTE Games and Sim Network and also Inevitable Instructors. So, we do lots of different things with game-based learning, gamification, and game design, and our real purpose is to go ahead and teach you about that, and also grab all the educators who are already doing that and let them come on our Hangouts and talk to us and share their insights and wisdom. So, when we did the book club last year, we did The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. And if you haven't seen it already, this is actually a mobile app, and it's free. So it's really easy for you to go ahead and download. In fact, I'm pulling it up right now. Looks something like this. Not showing great, but what it really is, it's a deck of cards. And some game designers use decks to make sure they're hitting upon everything when they design. So, as you can see here, like he did 1, 2, and I think he goes about to 200, and I'm sure Cynthia will be able to come on and tell us the correct number. But if you take a look at it, you know, the first one, there's emotion, essential experience, venue, all the things that you would consider if you were designing a game. The other thing that I'd have to say is, since you are an educator, you might also consider these things when you're designing a class or a lesson plan or an event. So, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so, Jane McGonigal did a game.
Hey, Kay.
Hey,
did you ask how many questions there are? Because the first deck came out with 100 cards, and the second deck, the second edition, has 113.
Wow. Okay. I knew there was an extreme amount of cards there. Okay. So we decided not to do them all. We just want you for this game, which is called Learning is Earning, we just want you to look at these. So 1 through 8, emotion, essential experience, venue, surprise, fun, curiosity, indigenous value, problem solving, and then holographic design and unification. We just want you to consider these when you're taking a look at this game. And the game is called Earning is Learning. And I am now going to share my screen so that we can go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, so we have this website up and ready. And this was put up in March by South by Southwest and the Institute for Future Studies. So on this website, it has everything that we would have gone ahead and we would have seen during the session. So Chris and I were able to be at that session. We were at the keynote, and what Jane McGonigal did was she had everyone watch this video and then go ahead and comment on these different questions. And that was the game that she had us play. And this game was introducing the blockchain. So this was the first time a lot of people had heard of the blockchain. And then what she also did was she showed a possible future about the blockchain and education. So this is what we want you to do. We want you to go in and we want you to try the game. And I know that both Cynthia and Chris have looked at this game. So
yeah, hey, I'll pipe up. And by the way, my apologies if I cut in. You know how it is when you're at a symposium. But I worked up some cards for it, but I couldn't figure out how to post them. And it's possible that they've put the game on a hiatus temporarily, but I joined the game successfully. I tried logging in through several different browsers. I had a Twitter account logged in, and so playing the cards, but I came up with some ideas, and I was looking at how their ideas had grown over time, and it reminded me of a game I played for the Navy as well that was essentially asking people to think about the future, to dream big, to also look at some of the cautionary tales, and then to play ideas, to do some predictive, some investigation, some planning. What would it take to do this? Some action cards. And so it's really a lot of fun. Over to you, Chris.
Sure. For me, what's interesting is looking at the game from a CTE lens and looking at some of the career technical aspects of it. It's interesting in the video on how they want everyone to issue the different learning units of themselves, and so it is kind of a unique way to look at using the blockchain itself and how one might create an interface to enter it. One of the things it doesn't necessarily really address is how does one actually earn the credit and how does it actually be recorded and transacted. So that'll be kind of interesting from the ledger. I do like the stories they have. They're kind of interesting. What they have around. A lot of it is experiential. Definitely would be focusing a lot on experiential learning. Probably would definitely be tying to CBE as well. But what's interesting is that they're using the individual, so the public would be, your average person would be the person who is issuing the education to somebody else. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. It's an interesting take on it. I don't know. But then again, I have an accounting background, so when you call something the ledger, I have a certain reaction to that probably the average person doesn't. And so it's an interesting name, and it's a fun simulation, but there's a little bit of a dystopian to it, which is kind of interesting that we're going over. What's funny is during her presentation at the South by Southwest, whenever she first started talking about it, a couple of us were laughing off to the side and giggling about it because we thought they were sort of being like sarcastic or ironic, and then we realized a little bit later that no, they're being very serious about this. And so it's kind of an interesting take on it.
Okay, so Cynthia, what other comments did you have about it?
About the game, well, it looks like a lot of fun. And like I said, I worked up a collection of cards. Some of mine were, wouldn't it be interesting? This is a question I asked in October 2006 from the MacArthur Foundation at the New Media Consortium's Symposium on Digital Media and New Media. And I asked the question, should we as educators and as schools start encouraging our students to create MMORPGs, learning environments, and start thinking of course portals as these organic constantly evolving opportunities to develop quests and to rethink how people learn, not just through informal learning, but also informal learning, where they get confirmation of the pedagogy, but they get opportunities for andragogy and hudagogy, for creativity, for transformation. In other words, leveraging all these technologies. And at the time, Eric Zimmerman and Katie Salen were in the audience and said that, no, we're not great at designing games, so perhaps that's not a good use of our energy. But I think things have changed. Yeah, see?
Yes.
I think things have changed. And I know you and Chris are true believers also. What I love is this notion of leveraging the makerspace and pushing some of that energy out to our students, not to do everything, but to do the things they do best. And then for us to be integrators, aggregators, and pulling these ideas together and stimulating, crowdsourcing, creating these MMORPGs, these evolutionary, ever-expanding course platforms. And of course this is radical because I'm thinking open education too. Over to you, Kay.
Oh, no. I think that's great. And while we might not be great at making games now, I think we're all getting better. Because I remember the first games and simulations I made like 7 years ago. There is a big difference now to what I'm doing, especially when it comes to alternate reality games. And as far as MMOs, I think a student making a whole world and coming up with the background and the plot and everything, I think that's one of the greatest forms of creation we can actually see in creativity out of our students. So I'm with you.
Absolutely, Kay. See, one of my thoughts are, and you have to realize, I anchor this idea with the ancient spaces. If you guys searched for ancient spaces and University of Southampton or Oxford, you'd notice that in 2006, 2007, they had their first year ancient civilization and Greek students creating Maya models of historic, Roman and Greek, artifacts or environments, and then they were going to string them together into an MMORPG. So my idea is not new. I know Kaplan and other schools have worked on one. I think one of the problems is if we try to make it insular and we try to do everything, we struggle. But I think if we opened it up and we modularized it, where no one had to do everything, everyone took little pieces of it. We thought of it in a Lego-like or Minecraft construction, right? Where we start bridging and anchoring all these pieces. I think we can accomplish some really amazing things. Now, whether it's massive or whether it's just a course level for periodic things. See, one of my problems is the reason I like Massive is I like the notion of reusable spaces where we can have lots of different quests. And in my research, we always call that a game simulation kit because we like to build it once and use it for many different tasks, similar to a course portal. So you leverage your strengths, and then you weave in all this new content or new quests or new problem-based learning, new critical thinking, even flipped classroom, whatever it is. You're in there with your students, and you're having this amazing experience. And over to you.
I know. And that's the thing about it. We'll have everybody look at the blockchain game. And then go ahead. And we'll go ahead and...
I'm so sorry.
and we'll go ahead and we'll see, what everyone thinks about it. Is this a good way to introduce the blockchain to educators? I mean, we did it a little differently. We started it with slides and having you read and do things like that. But since this is from the Games and Simulations Network, we'd really like you to see and think about if if a game is a good way to introduce the concept of the blockchain. And Chris, if we can see those slides again, because if you recall last week, we were looking at, Doug brought us the scenarios from learning on the block. And Learning on the Block gave you this report, and they were really looking at the blockchain and personal learning. But we love those questions, and play the game, but then think about these questions too from Learning on the Block. In what ways might blockchain and smart contracts provide the technical foundation for a new architecture for education? Go ahead and think about that. I mean, it won't be exactly right there in the earning is learning game, but that's okay. And then while you're playing the game, this is this is from the foundation. Some of the questions they were asking you to think about. But think about this when you're playing the game too. Does the game make you hopeful or does it make you curious? Are you alarmed, or are you doing something like yes, but, and the nagging feeling that you're having about something that hasn't been resolved yet? Or were there other implications from the game that weren't fully explored that you want to keep thinking about? Now, remember, we're doing this whole blockchain and education so that if you've seen the Dilbert commercial, no one will be able to say blockchain, blockchain, blockchain to you and have everybody else in the room go ahead and nod their head. Instead, we want you thinking critically about this, and as an educator, know what this means and also know how far out it is. And if somebody starts saying that we're putting it on the blockchain, go, oh, okay, so wait a minute. So how long have you been working with blockchain technology? And who are your programmers? And what kind of blockchain technology are you using? And so you can ask all those other great questions. So if Cynthia has any more remarks, let's have them from her. And then after that, we'll wrap up.
Well, Kay, I keep putting the phone to my ear because all of a sudden the speakerphone died, right? So that's why, and then everything got very quiet. So I'm watching your lips move, and I'm going, well, that's cool. So I think you were talking about blockchain, right?
Yes, yes.
And what was your question?
The final thoughts on the blockchain and reading the game. I'm playing the game and reading the scenarios.
You know, what you're thinking of here, whenever I think of blockchain, I was fascinated with your take on it when we were at the ISTE conference, because you were thinking of identity. Maybe it was Chris, but you guys were thinking about identity, and you were thinking about having a single identity and having something that's persistent across worlds and spaces, which is the benefit. As someone who's been a victim of identity theft 7 times and had 2 home invasions, I look at the puzzle a little differently, right? So, and I'm teaching web privacy this term and information accountability. So I'm fascinated with that's going towards a Star Trek utopia where we eventually get to the point where we have new economic systems, a new way of framing of our identity, and new ways of securing it. And that's the part that I think is fascinating about it, is it will create energy and attention and research into coming up with better mechanisms for that, and we need it. As everything's going into the cloud as a service, and as we're leveraging these games and thinking about them as powerful learning spaces, we also need protections, right? For our students, for their privacy, for everything else. So I think the blockchain is creating that energy and an economic system, and see, that's where things get really fascinating. So I feel very positive about it, even though you see me giving it a quizzical eye.
Well, yeah, of course, that's what we want to do. Okay.
As far as game-based learning, though, to close on that one, see, I think Jesse Schell's work in the elemental tetrad and in framing has given power to educators all around the world to rethink how curriculum maps to it, and to have a structure, and to recognize maybe aesthetics isn't our strong point unless we're artists and designers, but that's okay. Because, of course, we've noticed in Minecraft and in other tools that there's this resilience of the spirit, this amazing creativity, and there's a power in it that transforms the roles within a classroom, and that's where I think all of that is empowering us, to think outside the box, to go for it. Thanks, Kay.
No, thank you. And we're going to be wrapping it up now, everyone. We will be back at the top of the hour with our Pokemon Go just-in-time special. But next week will be our last week for the Blockchain Book Club, and we'll have Sherry Jones. And while Cynthia was talking about identity and moving your avatar from world to world, really Sherry Jones is going to elaborate on that a lot more for next week. So that's going to be our last hangout. And our special guests, we will have Sherry Jones. We will have James Willis from Indiana University, who's been doing all the work on digital badging, and who also is a humanities person, and he comes with a very different perspective. We also will have Jeff Wall, our embedded librarian. So that's all for now. We will be back at the top of the hour for Pokemon. So goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.